Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you first so there's the test. So does that mean we still get Tuesday that we can go over this, right? So what we'll do on Tuesday is I'll answer, like today, I think we'll do a pretty thorough job of not only looking at question number 3 when it comes to SOPA, which would be the predominant subject of our lecture today, but also the solutions to potential solutions to the media monopoly. Also, what we'll do on Tuesday as well is I will show you places, we'll cover the book a little bit more in detail. Before, we've sort of been talking about subjects related to the chapters in the book and bringing in examples of this. The way I see it is, if I'm going to teach a media class, and the book does not, it provides examples, but there's nothing more instructive, I think, than some of the things that we've watched, both those documentaries as well as stuff even like the Jon Stewart piece, which was suggesting some of the things we were talking about as far as the watchdog journalism. For example, most people would consider the media to be a dysfunctional organization, meaning that it's not adhering to or living up to its functions. What does that mean? Let me interpret that statement. I'll put this down to question number 3.
The news is no longer telling us what's important.
So what is it doing?
It's kind of distracting us from what's important.
What else is it doing that Bagdickian and other people, particularly from the conflict perspective, doing? Somebody else.
Manipulate?
To do what?
To
hide from us, to hide from us,
That are being undertaken by who?
well, essentially, doesn't the government run CNN? So,
CNN the station?
one station doesn't the government run?
PBS, not technically, but they support PBS.
Oh, they censor it out. So,
I don't know about that. You might be thinking of something like the Armed Forces Network or something like
I
that.
don't know what channel.
The government censors things in a general, like you're not going to get pornography on Saturday night on CBS. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
When cuss words and they censor movies and things like that. But who does Bagdickian say that these media companies work for?
corporations.
Right, and that they potentially hide things, that bad things that corporations are doing. And in the end, remember we talked, what's the watchdog function of journalism? What's that mean?
To inform us when corporations or things like that.
And why does that seem to be a little more crucial in a democracy versus a dictatorship or a monarchy or something like that?
Because the people are the ones that supposedly make the decisions in Congress.
So if the political process is hijacked by media companies that are in bed with corporations and politicians take money from corporations and the citizens are ill-informed because the media is not giving them the full view of not only the major candidates that are now, but also any potential third-party candidates. So what does that mean for the political process? What are voters doing?
Voting blind.
Well, at very minimum, and worse, are making serious mistakes. How many here were old enough to vote the last presidential election? I'm not going to ask you who you vote for, but did you get what you thought you wanted? Did you get what you wanted when you voted? Or do you? If anybody wants to share who they voted for, and if they, especially, for example, I mean, if you voted for McCain, I'm not sure what you're probably disappointed in the result. But for example, anybody who voted for Obama, do you feel that yes, we can, and this is change you can believe in, and things are different now? That there's no money in politics anymore? Has Obama altered the system completely? Isn't that what he promised? Or am I wrong? Anybody want to share? Do you feel disappointed? Do you feel lied to? Do you feel like taking it in? Let me put it another way. Because of the behavior of politicians in 2008, how many people think you don't want to vote? Few? One at least? Why?
I don't know.
These candidates don't attract you?
No.
Does anybody want to share who they? I mean, you don't have to. I'm not going to. It's certainly private anyway. I'll tell you. I voted for Obama. I think I was because I'm a little older and I've seen this circus show before. Bill Clinton did this kind of stuff. But George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan. It's Morning in America. All these politicians, they play this game where they're one person when they campaign, and then when they get in office, all of a sudden they go back to being the. I mean, they're virtually. I'll tell you right now. Compare the policies in the final stages of the Bush administration with the Obama administration and tell me how much of a difference there is. Did Obama stop the bailout? Did Obama stop the GM bankruptcy bailout? Did Obama really do anything about the national debt? Did he stop the war in Afghanistan and then the other one in Iraq? Maybe the Iraq war, give him that right. Okay, he certainly got bin Laden, that was something.
Well, not really.
Yeah.
Well,
They just happened to find and kill Osama
well, look,
during Obama's presidency.
there's a show, if you watch the Frontline special on this, you will see, and there was another one on National Geographic Channel, and not, again, it's the media, so you always have to take it with a grain of salt. He at least, they were unsure, they were only 50% sure that's who that was. And so there was a potential to have a serious international incident if you're going into Pakistani airspace to grab an international fugitive. Now, in the end, they smoothed it out, but I don't think Pakistan's happy about it still to this day. And he at least had to make the decision that we're going to send U.S. troops in. Anyway, I think the bigger point is that, you know, we have this issue where can we run a legitimate democracy with a media that seems to be more interested in, at the very minimum, protecting corporations and the bad things that they do, and at the worst, cheerleading for them when they're manipulating and exploiting people, and you know, those of you who've ever taken a class on business ethics, which I find is hilarious. That's why I keep laughing at this guy who keeps. It's like, dude, your industry almost destroyed the United States, okay? I mean, that's all I have to say to you. Sociologists never destroyed the United States. Bankers have, okay? And several times. This is the third or fourth depression we've had in the history of the United States. And make no doubt about it, this is basically a depression going on. 10.5% unemployment at one point. The GDP of the United States dropped 6.5% in one quarter. This is not little things. And in addition, what's worse is that in the 1920s, we didn't have $15 trillion in national debt. So, anyway, but again, if the public's ill-informed, they're making mistakes, they could be exacerbating the problem. You could be voting for people, whether it's Obama or whether it's Mitt Romney, who are going to say, I know what it's like to be middle class, and yet they go to their mansions and their limousines. Okay, and they don't even set foot in. I mean, do you realize that people like Obama, they don't do normal things? I'm not even completely sure that they wipe their own butts. I mean, seriously, we probably have like a royal butt wiper or something, food taster, and like royalty. When you're the president, you are like a king. People do everything for you. People also try and obviously throw you off your little throne, but anyway, so it is a little bit different, but still, you know, the public, like there was a Republican debate last night, and the candidates tried to attempt to make it look like that they knew what it was like for average people to suffer. The one good thing about the debate last night is that they allowed the public to ask questions, and one of the first questions that came up was the national debt. And they forced these candidates to address that issue. So, anyway, and it's probably going to be the last debate for quite a while. Let me show you a video on the SOPA bill. A few things though before we get started. Loose change assignment, please turn that in to me today. If you can't get it, you better get it to me by tomorrow. Email it to me. Also, I believe by Thursday, and I'll check the syllabus on this one, we're going to be moving to TV and its viewers, the book on cultivation theory. And then obviously we're going to study, we will go over the test in a little more detail. So, anyway. All right. So let me read the text of the third question, and then I'm going to show you a few videos. So, what solutions does Bagdickian give to deal with the media monopoly? We'll talk a little bit about that today. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday. Why do politicians in Congress and the White House seem to support the media monopoly? There is almost like a commentary piece in the sense that you need to synthesize the data and lecture material that we've discussed, like we just did right there, of why politicians like to support, or at least seem to support, as well as the president, no matter who it is, the media monopoly, because they've virtually done nothing to stop it. And Bill Clinton signed the 1996 Telecommunications Act that allowed television companies or media companies in general. It used to be absolutely illegal to own. If you owned a newspaper, you couldn't own a TV station. If you own one media outlet, you couldn't own another. You couldn't own a TV station and a radio station and a newspaper all at the same time. As you've seen, the News Corp alone has, and they own the Wall Street Journal, they own the New York Post, they have their Fox Broadcasting, they have their little local networks, they have FX. I'm pretty sure they probably have they own radio stations, probably own publishing houses. That no one has taken any actions to stop this. So there, where I'm asking you, and you may even want to go out and get some articles on the Telecommunications Act. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday, about why politicians don't want to do this. And part of it, obviously, is the fact that they get funding for their campaigns from these media companies, and as well, I don't really think you want to upset. Who's the one that owns Cablevision? The Dolans? I don't think you want to upset them. I don't think you want to upset Rupert Murdoch. I don't think you want to upset people who are on the board of directors of Viacom. If you continue to do these types of things, your chances of winning the presidency or holding your office are going to be very slim because they're going to come after you. All right. So meaning, does the money and attention from corporations and the press impact how the government deals with the so-called monopoly? You may want to find an article about media companies spending money in the presidential campaign. So then I'm asking you to look up these two bills, and we'll look over these two. Okay, but I want to show you these videos first to give you a little bit more background. And it says, so look over these, look up the information on this. This is a story about SOPA. And this is another one where Google and Facebook were against it. And tell me if this will make the media monopoly stronger or weaker, or neither. So let me show you this video on what SOPA is. This is from CNN Money, so it's from a media source talking about their own. Kind of like reading a book of the Holocaust written by a Nazi. I don't think you're really going to get a fair appraisal of the situation.
So you couldn't find another video?
No, because the problem is, I mean, if you go on YouTube, you look for a blog of a video. How do you know that the person did the research and things like that? So there's the other problem as well, is that people don't trust the media, but you're media dependent in a sense. Now, this is actually, I'm being a little facetious there, but this is actually a pretty good representation of what the bill is. You can actually read the bill online if you want. All government bills are online, but usually one of the tricks the government does is they make them 900 pages long, so people, like the healthcare bill was 2,700 pages long. That's longer than the Bible. The Bible is only about 1,400 pages long. I mean, it's almost twice the size of the Bible. What in the world could you put in legislation that would be twice as long as the Bible? That's probably as long as longer than the Lord of the Rings series. I mean, this is probably encyclopedia sets that aren't that big. I mean, just think of the absurdity of what's in that bill. You know? Huh?
And people have to read that whole thing.
Nobody does. That's what's wrong. That's partly what's wrong with the process. Is that, do you really think the president sat down and read every line of that bill? But he supported it. And here's what happens. This is I think it's a sidebar, but it's important. When you're a congressional representative and you're out, and here's the problem with the constant campaigning. They're constantly campaigning, especially if you're in the House, because you're up every 2 years and you're trying to shake people's hands and get people. It almost looks like a drug deal sometimes when they go to these dinners. They shake their hand, or shake this hand and take the money with the other hand and put it in their pocket. So what you have, if you have a 2,700-page bill, you hire aides to read part of the bill for you. So each one of them reads a 400 or 500-page section. And they don't read it real close. They're not reading it for detail like you would a chemistry book or something. They're skimming over top of it. And maybe they're writing down what they think is important. So they're filtering the information through to the representative. So maybe they are trying to, they support the bill, but they think there's something in there that the congressman might not, so they ignore that. And they don't tell him about it. And then later on, after he votes for it, then it all comes out, because the press will sit down. They'll hire 8, 9 people and read the whole thing. Or find controversial areas. Sometimes congressional aides will call up news people and say, hey, you got to check this out on page 891. You won't believe what's in this bill, right? That says about abortion or something like that. And you got to think, what in the world could be in a 2,700-page bill? I mean, I could probably write a 40-page bill and solve the health care insurance issue in this country right now. Right? You need to just get rid of private health insurance companies. There's just no other way around it. You have to go to a system similar to Canada or something like that, because one of the problems is healthcare companies are run for profit. They get government money, so the level of profit they make has to do with what they bill the government. So is there an incentive not to bill the government or to bill the government? To bill the government repeatedly. Oh, you need 20 x-rays. So somebody will come in with a broken hip and they'll do a CAT scan. Seriously. And I'm telling you right now, and doctors don't, a lot of doctors don't do this, but a lot of doctors do. They'll prescribe medication because they know that the person's not paying for it and the government is. And $300-400. And once you get people on medication, they're usually on medication for life. So it's like, to me, it's like psychologists do that stuff. Yeah, well, it reminds me of an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David tried to convince his psychologist that he was fine and didn't need any more therapy. Try to go in and tell your psychologist that you're fine. You know, oh, I'm fixed. I'm cured, dude. No more. Or they're going to say, yeah, we're going to have to see you. It's like chiropractors do. Once a week for several decades. You got insurance, right? No. Oh, well, get out then. You're cured. You're fine. Those homicidal thoughts you're having, no big deal. Anyway. Alright, let me show you this.
It's tough for U.S. companies to take action against overseas websites. SOPA is an acronym for the Stop Online. Content creators have battled against piracy for years, but it's tough for U.S. companies to take action against overseas websites. SOPA is an acronym for the Stop Online Piracy Act. It's a proposed House bill that aims to crack down on copyright infringement by restricting sites that host pirated content. SOPA's main targets are rogue overseas websites like the Pirate Bay, which are a trove for illegal downloads of music, movies, and other content. Most of these websites make money off of ads, so SOPA goes after that revenue stream. Under SOPA, if the Pirate Bay were found to be hosting pirated content, a judge could order US-based ad networks and payment processors that serve the Pirate Bay to cut off the website completely. In general, SOPA's supporters are media companies like CNN parent Time Warner and groups like the Motion Picture Association of America. SOPA's opponents are big tech companies like Google, Facebook, and AOL. Both sides tend to agree that protecting copyrighted content is a worthy goal. But SOPA's opponents say that the way SOPA is written effectively promotes censorship and is rife with unintended consequences, and that it blames websites for individual users' actions. On January 13th, the bill's sponsors removed one of the most controversial parts of SOPA. As originally written, SOPA would have required internet service providers to block access to websites that law enforcement officials deemed promoting piracy. So, if U.S. users tried to visit the Pirate Bay, their browser wouldn't take them there. One day after that part of the bill was removed, the White House released a statement saying it would not support any legislation that tampers with the internet's fundamental architecture. If you visit foreign websites that host copyrighted content, like the Pirate Bay, you could see them slowly start to disappear as their revenue streams are cut off. Theoretically, search engines like Google wouldn't show flagged sites in their search results, and payment processors like PayPal couldn't transmit funds to them. If SOPA doesn't pass, the current law would stay in place. For example, let's say a user uploads a copyrighted song to a website. The copyright holder could then contact the website and ask them to take it down in a reasonable amount of time. tech companies have been working hard to make sure their users are aware of SOPA, and they're asking them to voice opposition by calling their representatives. Sites including Wikipedia and Reddit also organize site blackouts.
I guess that was the end of it. That's a little weird.
There's no second part?
Nope. Alright, but I have another one. This talks about the opposition to the bill. This is from CNN too.
Maybe this vacation wasn't a good idea.
Vacations are always a good idea. No time. Out, quick. You're miles from your destination. Amigo.
Once they pass a bill and get rid of these things. I always love the ones when you get on a website, they go like this, and then it's like, oh my gosh. Do they think they're making friends by doing that?
The major tech companies there are applauding it, but this, of course, is following the high-profile protests by those major tech companies, some of the heavyweights like Google and Wikipedia. Congressional leaders today, John, they announced they were essentially shelving the two anti-online piracy bills that both previously had enjoyed some bipartisan support. In a statement, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, he said he was pulling the Protect IP Act from a scheduled procedural vote Tuesday, saying, quote, there is no reason that the legitimate issues raised by many about this bill cannot be resolved. And in the House, a similar reversal on a similar bill called SOPA, gotta love the acronyms, Stop Online Piracy Act, it's called. The chair of the House Judiciary Committee announced in a statement that the committee would, quote, in his words, postpone consideration of the legislation until there is a wider agreement on a solution. The bills were backed by content providers like Hollywood studios, who had complained that they're losing millions of dollars a year because of illegal downloads. They want tougher protections. And full disclosure, CNN's
Yeah, and Hollywood's real poor, aren't they?
supports the legislation. But many tech companies, they say the measures would lead eventually to censorship of the internet. And with the announcement today, it seems round one at least goes to the internet, as lawmakers say they have to now, John, head back to the drawing board to try to strike some sort of compromise.
This AT&T 4G LTE is fast.
Hey, did you
This
hear
is
about
what we're fighting for, so we can get this
Yeah.
content. Alright, let me cue these stories up. I'm not going to read these whole things, but I want to show you some of the things they say. Oops. I think we'll stick to this story. You can read the other story. The other story has a lot of details in it as well. Ooh, this sounds like a photo gallery. Anyway. So, did CNN do a good job of explaining what was going on here? What was at stake?
No.
Or are you confused? What more information do you want? You're just not concerned. It's gonna, yeah, go ahead.
All they really did in the video was just explain what it was. They didn't really go into much detail about it.
And I think that when you're unfamiliar with these issues, it's hard to. And here's the problem: when you have such a low level of information being given by Congress, you don't know what questions to ask. But one of the questions that I would ask as somebody who's a media researcher is, what does this mean for individuals who download pirated material? Are they going to jail? You know? What's going to happen to YouTube? There's a hell of a lot of copyrighted material on YouTube, isn't there? That's not supposed to be there. What's going to happen with that? Did they answer that question?
Doesn't YouTube already do something about that?
They do, but this may mean... And what was confusing to me is, remember it said, if the bill doesn't pass, what will happen is YouTube will, the media creators will go to YouTube and ask them. Whereas I think that this bill, and they didn't mention this specifically, it seems to me, because YouTube, like if you're Warner Music and somebody uploads a song of yours and doesn't get permission, that's illegal and that's supposed to be taken down. It's not though, for most times. What I think the SOPA bill, and again they're not clear on this, and they need to be clear on this, and this is why people don't listen to the media. You know, does the SOPA bill mean that's just going to be a blanket reality where media content providers will just go onto YouTube and just gut it completely? Where to me, I think that, and this is maybe why, because Google owns YouTube. Don't you think if Google thought that their money was at stake, that they'd be against this bill? So obviously something's at stake for them, and again, they don't talk about this enough. It clearly, to me, is YouTube is what is at stake here. Or sites like that, Twitter, Facebook, where people, I'm not going to ask people individually, but have you seen, how many people here have seen a Facebook page that probably had something on it that somebody had put on there that wasn't properly vetted or asked permission from? Song lyrics, pictures. You see what's at stake now?
But that's...
Go ahead.
I mean, like, so then...
No, this means that companies, if you have something on your Facebook page that you didn't get permission for, you upload it on something YouTube, you can be sued.
That's not going to happen.
They have the power to do it, though. All they have, here's the thing. The government knows this, and so do businesses. It's like, to me, it's like the protest at Kent State. You only have to shoot 6 people. Meaning that you only have to arrest 5 or 6 people that are doing this on YouTube. And it'll send such a chill through society. You know, just like if on the southern state, just think of this, every single time someone went 1 mile over the speed limit, you got pulled over. If that kept happening, and you kept seeing that on the road, even if you didn't get pulled over, wouldn't you get the message? Or at least a lot of people would. Some people would still do it. But it would give YouTube more of a right to not even ask, I don't need to ask permission or make it go, or even, I'll just take it off. And they may be able to delete people's entire accounts and then attack them on other stuff. So, yes.
Part of the bill, like, if you, like, videotape your kid, like, walking, but you have, like, a Friends episode in the background, like...
On the TV?
Yeah.
Yeah. YouTube now actually looks for that kind of stuff. Yeah. But again, many people put things that are on YouTube that are copyright protected, and you know, to me, and this was much more the case 5 or 6 years ago. YouTube was like the ultimate jukebox. Any song you can think of, there's a version of it now. Sometimes you have to wade through 50 karaoke versions, or somebody singing a cappella who thinks that they should be on American Idol, and I've heard frogs that had more harmony in their voice. But you can eventually get to, now not Prince's songs, because he's got some kind of issue or something. So, but they also certainly want to stop anything like a Napster. Remember, they talked about these Pirates Bay and stuff like that, which was a site where you can download movies. What about Hollywood? Should we feel sorry for Hollywood? Is Oliver Stone homeless in the streets with like a tin can asking for nickels? Because I don't think he is. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have any rights. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say, I can see how it's unethically unfair that they're not getting the money that they deserve, but they still already have so much money. Like, they said they're going to lose millions of dollars, but how many multi-million dollars are they still making?
Plus, you're not going to stop people from legitimate... I would say 85%, if not more, of people don't download illegal movies. And I would also say to Hollywood, maybe you should make better content that's more entertaining, that people would think is worth $12. Because, and it's not even, to me, when I go see a bad movie, it's not the $12 that bothers me as much. Although it's the 2 hours that I could have been doing something like beating my head against the wall, which would have been much more constructive and entertaining than watching The Crystal Skull. Okay? Trademark infringement. Anyway.
Before the internet, weren't there other ways of pirating media?
Yeah, you could go in with a camera to a movie theater and film it, but it was usually a terrible quality. Nowadays, all you have to do is, and what part is behind this is where are these websites where you can download this content located? Physically.
Well,
Like, where are the people who put these up located?
well, Pirate Bay, I think, is based in Sweden.
Right, so this is out of the country. And particularly countries like China, do they respect or protect copyrighted material? So somebody in China gets a hold of one of these, gets a DVD, I don't know how they get, somebody gets a downloaded version of this somehow. Maybe they still go to the theaters with the camera. Nowadays with HD cam. The goofy thing I always thought about that is, can't you hear people in the audience? Like getting up and going to the bathroom and stuff and standing in front of the screen, or people coughing. I don't want to hear that on an audio track. I mean, it's worth, what's it cost to download a movie on Netflix anyway? $1? $2? What's it at Redbox?
$1.
So,
Really?
so if you're willing to wait 3 or 4 months, or even some of these movies don't last 2 weeks, seriously, then in order to get quality, but from I don't know how they do this, but these copies that come from places like China, for some of them are on DVDs. Like I don't know. You know what? Part of it has to be the fact is they manufacture these DVDs in China. Somebody obviously is getting a hold of these things in the factory. Because you got to think, when you put out a movie, are you going to wait to produce the DVDs, or are you going to do it now so you can have them ready to ship in 2 months when it's out, right? That's probably what you're going to do. So I would assume it's something like that going on. And in order to make a DVD, you need an electronic copy of the movie to burn it onto a DVD, and then you produce copies of it through some kind of mechanical process. And the issue, I think, that this isn't just about Hollywood. I think is upset with China more than anything, and there's nothing really they can do to stop it. I'm telling you right now, even on YouTube, you can go on there and watch movies. There's movies all over the place. Because now, it used to be, when YouTube first started, you can only upload 15-minute videos. Once you're in the service for long enough, you can upload 3 or 4 hours. It doesn't even matter. Yes?
What about, like, so these piracy locations are overseas, outside of, you know, the America's ability to, you know, make laws for them. So
right.
we just restrict the income of it, or?
Well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to shut these things down to where either one of the. I think this is also one of the major controversial aspects is that, and this is probably why Google is against it and AOL. They run search engines, and what they don't want is to have to sit there and flag sites and censor sites and look over this stuff. And again, it turns them into the Chinese government, which censors websites. So it's kind of an ugly reality. Let me read what Bagdikian said about, this is on page 147, he actually says something akin to that the more open a system is, the less likely you are to have some kind of a media monopoly. And we've talked about how the internet has opened it up at least a little bit more, where you have things like loose change on there, or you can put content on there pretty easily. So this, and he wrote this in 2005. It says on page 147, Digital Commons. Another academic-oriented reaction against monopolists is the electronic commons movement, and this is essentially what SOPA is fighting against a little bit. Conducted entirely on the internet, the word commons is used metaphorically, not as the grassy public plots that are typically of the community-owned expanses in New England towns, for example, the famous Boston Commons. The electronic commons has become a worldwide effort to keep as much intellectual property as possible, articles, books, art, film, textbooks, music, and other published material in the public domain free of commercial copyright restrictions. He's not making any friends at the media conference, you know. Librarians and others reacted to the easy success in the recent decades of commercial media corporations using their power in Congress to extend copyrights well beyond earlier limits. Usually after a while, and particularly after the author had been dead for a while, like Shakespeare. You can download every single one of Shakespeare's plays right now off the web for absolutely free, and you're not violating any law. Same with like 200-300-year-old poetry, or Geoffrey Chaucer stories. Like for example, this is something, those of you who have like these old, like early English literature classes, don't buy the books. Go find it on, I'm telling you, Geoffrey Chaucer, all these people, like Beowulf, I'm pretty sure Beowulf is not copyrighted. Okay. So anyway, so one of the concerns they have here is that copyright has been extended on certain works, particularly things like movies. Anyway, copyright extension stimulated the fear that corporate control is moving toward what would effectively be perpetual copyright, keeping ever more material the business property of the media conglomerates. Contributors to the new Commons collection are free to decide whether their material would be licensed for selected use under conditions of their own choosing. Otherwise, the material is open to the public for non-commercial use. If anyone wishes to use Commons material for profit-making, the author can charge fees. So what they're saying here is not this free use of this stuff. Or not in the sense of, I can use this and resell it or something like that. The way you can, like if you make a YouTube commercial and it's an interesting commercial, YouTube will help you get advertisers on your site and you actually make money per view. I'm serious. But you can't do that if it's somebody else's material. However, again, the law is somewhat unclear if you want to upload your favorite sitcom. And people happen to be watching that. Especially if you take the commercials out. Okay? They'll probably flag it, but they won't remove it. And maybe they might remove it. Yes?
What does like that flag do?
It just suggests that if you see on YouTube, they'll usually at the bottom will say matching third-party content. If you click on that, particularly if you upload a video, it will say some content in this video has been identified as belonging to, like for example, a music services company. If you put lyrics on there or a song, and it says, right now the video is still available to the general public, but its status might change, and that is the ability of the company to say, we want to take this down. But I would say that, especially individual artists, there's a benefit, Lady Gaga, to having people film your concerts and put them on YouTube. Why?
Well, I guess like
Are you less likely to go because you see Lady Gaga on concert on YouTube for 17 minutes?
Yeah, like, no, you're not. You want to go see it.
Yeah, you might go, man, look at that. The only thing Lady Gaga needs to be concerned about is she's a bad performer. Then you don't want it on there. And I would say similar things about certain TV shows, maybe not movies. I think the movie industry probably has a bigger concern here. Watching an episode of Two Broke Girls or whatever, or Modern Family something, that's not really hurting that company's revenue stream. Because you're probably going to go watch the new episode on TV. I'll tell you what TV companies need to be most concerned about is 3 letters, DVR. Because I've cut you people out. There are no commercials in my life. It took me 1 hour and 20 minutes to watch the Super Bowl. The rest of most of you probably sat down for 4 hours. And some of you, the commercials were terrible.
They weren't that good.
I mean, the Clint Eastwood commercial was kind of interesting, but it was still weird. I don't know, you know, remember the dog killing the cat and then bribing the guy with Doritos? I mean, that's just macabre, you know? I mean, that's just odd, you know? It's justifying cat murder. Anyway, I think so even though that there seems to be a lot of concern about copyrighted material, what is the real value of this? Here's what TV shows would be concerned about. Martin puts an episode of a TV show up and starts charging people to download it. There's where they would want to hang him. Okay? They wouldn't be able to.
Wouldn't it hurt TV shows because it might encourage people to watch it online instead of...
You can do that on Hulu right now. But Hulu's got commercials on it. So does YouTube, though. YouTube's got commercials on it.
Like, that's not like, because don't they get like their money from advertisers and that like hurts their ratings?
Again, I really think it's an argument of, I would say, then why are you letting cable companies sell DVRs? Because my eyeballs aren't on your little aspirin commercial or your Cadillac commercial, then you just wasted your money. I think advertisers should look at it this way. I'm not interested in buying a Cadillac at this point in time, or maybe later or something like that. So it's actually a good thing that I don't spend my time watching the commercial and then I don't get annoyed with it. Whereas if I'm watching broadcast television live, maybe I get annoyed that you keep interrupting my TV show, Cadillac. Now I have a bad attitude towards you. Just like I have a bad attitude towards those stupid ads on ESPN that open the site up and close it. Don't do that to my computer. Please don't do that. And if it's Verizon or something, you just made it powerful enemy, Verizon. Okay? Because I'm going to badmouth you every chance I get. So stop it with this. You know, the commercials are just ridiculous. But I see what you're saying with that. But again, they need to be much more concerned about DVRs than piracy. Because still, how many people here you watch your favorite TV show online and nowhere else? Martin, one person. I wish we had media executives that supported the SOPA bill in here. Because wouldn't that stop a lot of their concern? I would. I wish we had an anonymous survey. I'd ask how many people downloaded pirated material or music or something. No, I don't volunteer. The SOPA police are going to come and drag you off, man. So I can't have that. Anyway, all right. Let me finish with this as well. If anyone wishes to use commons material for profit making, the author can charge a fee. We mentioned that. Foundations and a coalition of legal specialists launched the Electronic Commons in 2001. A similar effort is Wikipedia, an internet-free encyclopedia that consists entirely of volunteer operators and contributors. It, like the Creative Commons, was started in 2001. So this is the early days of Wikipedia, you can tell. Here, so. And I'll tell you right now, you go on Wikipedia, every single one of those articles has some kind of picture or copyrighted material on it. Some fact. Now, what's the difference with Wikipedia? What does Wikipedia have that you better have on your paper? Or I'm going to hand it back to you.
Citation?
Yeah. And maybe they didn't get permission to the author, but they gave where they got to send. They did not present the information like it was mine. The problem is, though, let's take a Wikipedia article about a TV show. Isn't it going to have a picture of the cast? Isn't that copyrighted? So really, this stuff is. I think it reminds me again of the speeding on the highway. They can make this rule, like you can put 55 out here on the sign, it means absolutely nothing unless you have cops to enforce it. It doesn't, it means absolutely nothing. And, or let me put it another way. Unless people internalize the rule, right? Unless it becomes really important. Like if people believe that if you went 56 miles an hour, your car would explode, would people go above 55 miles an hour? Right? Or if they thought that, if everybody thought they were going to go to hell if they sped, right? And like it was real, you could prove that if you speed, you're going to, like, I don't, otherwise, or if they just thought it was a good idea or something, the whole society, but you know that's not the way it works. So again, it's like the SOPA bill. You can make all these rules all you want. Let me put it this way, when they shut down Napster, was that the only place you could get music? Those of you who are in the know, are there places where you can get music for free? And I'll tell you right, here's another funny thing. Anybody know what Radiohead did with one of their latest albums a few years ago? You guys know who Radiohead is?
Yeah, didn't they post it for free?
Yeah, and how much money did they make though? They actually did it for donations. How much did the average person pay for their album? They sold like at least 1 million albums or something. $10. People felt so guilty about, I guess, downloading them. Or maybe they thought, hey, this is good music. But if you look at it, it makes perfect sense. First of all, I don't think Radiohead does not come across as materialistic people in their band. I could be wrong. Maybe they're the biggest pigs you've ever seen. But if you actually look at it, most music artists don't make money off of their albums as much. I mean, some of them do. If you sell 50 million albums, what do they make money off of? Yeah, the shows, the merchandise, all this other stuff. Which you can't. You can make fake shirts, but it's a hell of a lot harder than putting something online, isn't it? I think there was when I went to the Sade concert, there were people selling fake shirts outside for like $8. You could tell it was fake. Okay, but anyway, so if you give the album away for free, maybe you get even more fans. Maybe people who've never even heard of Radiohead go, "Hey, that is cool. Maybe I'll check that band out." And the bigger issue was they made $10 an album. So even if they sold 500,000, they made. They made $1 million. What? No, it was $10. $500,000
or $10?
All right, whatever. the math part of my brain is messed up today. Anyway, that's why I went into sociology. Anyway, but they still made that money, and the people thought that they would make nothing. And it's just interesting that, and I'll tell you another thing, since they put it on download, did Amazon get any of that money? Yeah, the record company didn't get any of that money, so they were smart, because they could say, hey, and I would have told the U.S. government too, like, hey, we gave our album away for free, those were donations. I'll give them to my church, the Church of Radiohead, and we'll be tax-free. Do you guys realize that, I know this sounds funny, and I'm not necessarily trying to encourage people to do this, but you know you can make your own church and become tax-free? Yes. You can file, it's not very difficult at all. All you have to do is prove that you have an ideology and that you meet at a regular time. And seriously, now they will come and they will probably, if you're doing it to stop paying taxes on $5 million, they'll probably come get you. But if you're somebody who only makes $80,000 or $90,000 a year, I remember some dude when I was about 20 years old. I worked at Pizza Hut, and this guy did this, and it worked. He called it, his middle name was Ubermensch, which is Superman in German. This guy was a kook. He was a kook. But he had, I think it was like the Church of Herbal Medicine. And believe it or not, he did not, at least not that I knew of, smoked weed. It was actually like he was into like herbalism, like teas and things.
You don't pay any taxes at all?
I don't think so.
No,
Not on the salary, not on anything. Isn't that crazy? Hey, Scientology can get tax-exempt status. Anybody can. I mean, my God, have you ever taken a look at those ideas?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it's goofy as it gets, you know? I mean, there's cults that get tax-free status, you know? I'm sure the Church of Satan probably could get tax-free status. Anyway.
Why do religious affiliated organizations get
I'm not exact. I mean, if you want to get into the Founding Fathers and stuff, part of it was religious freedom, and they didn't want the government to be involved in taxing one religion over another. And maybe as well, churches are perceived as being social goods for the society, and that they do charity work and stuff. But I could also make the case that churches are the site of a lot of conflict, okay, and that they manipulate political races and all kinds of stuff, and that they have. Look, both the Protestant and Catholic churches have some serious issues with the behavior of some of their members, especially at the top of their members, when it comes to children, don't they? Okay, I mean, before there was Penn State, we all know who was engaged in this kind of stuff before. So, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, obviously, I don't think the molestation charges are related to the tax-free status, but I think that some organized churches have a position that they're beyond the scope of the government, and that we're not listening to you, and we make up our own rules. And I'm not just talking about the Catholic Church. A lot of churches, Mormon churches like this, a lot of Protestant. I don't think snake handlers want the government hanging around them and looking at what they're doing. Okay, the Mormon Church, at least the fundamental Latter-day Mormon Church, has been accused of marrying 14-year-olds off, so in complete violation of federal law. So some people would say that the church's tax-exempt status gives them sort of this insular attitude that we're better than society or somehow more important. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but certainly churches are tax-exempt. So, anyway. 2 years after its founding, this is Wikipedia, there were almost 150,000 entries. Now there's, God, I don't know. Somebody look, is anybody, who's on Wikipedia? You look that up? How many articles, it says? Its name is derived from the Hawaiian word wiki, meaning fast. Though it contains all the subject categories of a large general encyclopedia, the articles vary in quality and length, from the scholarly to the sketchy. At one point, there was some NBC executive, his Wikipedia said he was involved in the JFK assassination. Which he probably was. He probably wanted, look, if it's a joke, I'd leave it up there. What are they going to do, indict you for killing JFK? You got to have evidence to indict somebody. Yes?
What language do you want to?
English.
3,861,000.
So almost 4 million. Oh, so almost from 150,000 articles to almost 4 million. Huh?
It says plus.
So it's probably about 4 or 5 million.
That's just English too, right?
Yeah, that's just English. And God knows, how many Chinese. Well, I doubt China's allowed to get. But I guess there's a lot of stuff in Hindi because there's a billion, and a lot of people who have internet access now. So there's definitely, and I assume there's probably a lot of stuff in Russian. fair amount in French, Spanish. Look at Spanish. Look how it's all across the globe. I mean, if you speak French, German, and English, or French, Spanish, and English, you can almost speak to like 75% of the world's population. You can go to Africa, you can go to Latin America, you can go to parts of Asia even. If you go to India, a lot of people speak English there. A lot of people speak English in Japan. So if you learn Chinese, you really got it covered. Okay? And although that's very difficult to learn. Although that's what a lot of people have symbols and things on their back. So anyway, you should learn Mandarin if you're going to get a symbol on your back. It's like what Sheldon said to Penny's character on The Big Bang Theory. Why do you have the symbol for soup on your back? She said something like it was freedom or something. It's like, no, it's soup. Anyway, though it contains, so Wikipedia again, though the Wikipedia was created to counter the corporate control of information, a number of commercial firms have started their own free-based wiki internet sites, which business professionals and corporations can use as a fast-moving bulletin board for large corporate conferences and conventions. Even a conventional book publisher, Prentice Hall, faced with internet usage of copyrighted material, is issuing books over the Linux internet under an open publication license, which permits anyone to download one of their books in this category and make full photocopies. Oh man, I'm gonna write that down. I want to see if that's really true anymore. Oh, it's under Linux. That's what it is. Anyway, that's a different type of server. The publisher predicts that this will develop enough goodwill and interest in books reproduced this way that eventually users will want the sturdy, stable, conventionally printed hardback books for as much as $50 each. I'll tell you right now, though. You saw what happened. Which ones went out? Is it Borders the one that went out of business? And Barnes & Noble's is pulling up the rear. Okay, that's a corpse that's in the final stages of like breathing its last breaths. I mean, it's over. For all these booksellers. I don't even think there's going to be people who actually sell books anymore, except for like these used bookstores. And I'll tell you right now, I feel for people who are over the age of 65 because they still actually want physical books. Okay, and there's a lot of benefits. Let me tell you that this doesn't run out of batteries, and if I get this wet at the beach, it doesn't cost $200. Okay, has anybody ever gotten a Kindle or an iPad wet? Is it over? If you get it wet? Go ahead. Is it over when it's wet? No. No? Can you dry it out and it works?
I didn't
or the iPad, either one.
Oh, iPad? Well, the iPad only gets messed up if you get it in a little spot thing.
Oh, if you just get it watered in a certain place. You'd think they'd make these things completely waterproof or something like that. So it'll be interesting. Right now we're like I saw, I mean, this shows you how silly we are in this sort of the world of media, is that the New York Times is still trying to sell the benefits of having an actual newspaper. And again, I'll repeat, unless you have a bird cage or you're house training a puppy, I don't see the point of a physical newspaper. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And kids don't have paper routes anymore. It's like Bart Simpson said, it's creeps and vans. Okay, and do you really want weirdos wandering around your neighborhood at 4:30 in the morning? They haven't been asleep for 5 days. And God, probably should be on that show Breaking Bad or something like that. Anyway, this is why I deliver newspapers, because I'm up all the time. It's like, no, you're up all the time because you're on crystal meth. Anyway, yes?
I work for this lady. She works for the New York Post.
Does she deliver newspapers?
No. She's part of the financial area of it. And she said that the generation now is determining her job.
Yeah.
Because they don't read newspapers, and she's like, that's why we're coming up with apps and stuff for the internet, for the Post.
And I talked about this in my Aging Society class last semester. As much as elderly people who are especially in their 80s, don't care about the future, I would say that most young people don't care about what elderly people want the society to look like anymore. And we're headed for a generational war, in my opinion. The likes you've never seen. Part of the reason, it's essentially two words but one number, 15 trillion. That's all I got to say to people over the age of 60. You did that. I didn't do that. I voted for Bill Clinton, who balanced the budget. I don't know what happened after 2000. I mean, I do know what happened after 2001, after the Supreme Court did that disgusting crap. Anyway, but I mean, my gosh. So it's not just media. There's a whole host of stuff, but they're exactly right. Nobody, I'm telling you right now, that in 20 years, and it might not even be 20 years, there won't be things like this. When you go to get your textbooks, you'll take your iPad and you'll push a button, and it'll be downloaded on there, and it'll be 80% cheaper. Hopefully.
You can already do that.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? $9 for some of these ebooks? $8?
I work at a library and they're starting to be able to like loan books on Kindle and ebook.
What I want is the one that reads. I've got a little thing called it's Dragon software, and if it's a Word document, it reads it for you. I don't want to actually have to read books. I want books read to me.
You can do that on Kindle.
Can it?
Yeah.
Is it just the regular Kindle or the Fire?
Regular Kindle.
So is it goofy language like hello? Is it like real mechanical, or does it sound like a real voice?
No, it's like that female robot.
Oh well. I'm writing a paper on tuberculosis, and I read it. I have it read it to me. It's like tuberculosis, and it's like what in the world? It sounds like Stephen Hawking is hanging out with me or something like that. Let me read this article, and we'll talk a little bit more about what SOPA is. And keep in mind what Bagdikian said is that one of the accusations here, and one of the reasons why we're looking at this, is that this is seen by conflict theorists, and Bagdikian sort of hinting at this, although he wrote this book well before SOPA, that what this will become is an avalanche of legislation to really stop free content and the exchange of communications online, which will in turn stop any kind of overt opposition to the major media companies, both in the sense of presenting information that they don't want you to hear about politicians or corporations, but also they want to make sure that if you're watching content online, that one, you're paying for it, and two, the money's going to them. Okay, that's why Netflix is who they are, and they'll probably be bought out by one of these major media companies. There's no doubt about it. The thing that throws the fly in the ointment is Google and Facebook, who seem to be against this thing. So we'll look. This is what this article is about. So let's see what their issues are, and I think maybe this will give you a better understanding of what the SOPA bill itself is, and whether or not is this really a debate just about copyright material, or is this more about a debate about what the internet should be? Should it be an open commons, where information is freely exchanged, even if it's copyrighted material, or should it be a highly controlled, commercialized entity that has become the sewer of the world? I mean, I'm not going to... I would find this, to show you this, we'll talk about this when we get to cultivation theory. If you were to go over to the Google search site and put in sex, just imagine how many sites are going to come up. And, no, because God knows I might get in trouble from the internet police. Anyway, but think about what the internet sells. It sells penis enlargement pills and disgusting pornography, the worst type of pornography you can imagine, stuff with animals. And we know, even though these sites are illegal, that child pornography exists on the web, and primarily on the web. There's sites that'll sell you spyware that's actually a virus. Right? What other kind of just junk stuff that people don't need? You know, I mean, my gosh, all these little fake products that people create, like you got to get the HD lenses or the Snuggie. You know, that's an important thing to have, isn't it? Right? It's a reverse. Just buy a bathrobe and wear it backwards. It's the same thing. It is. It's the same thing. Just take the little rope out. It's probably better than you put the rope around there anyway. Or just wear a sweater. You ever heard of that one? I don't know what's worse. At least the Snuggie has people in the 70s and 80s, people bought pet rocks. Anyway, but that's what the internet deals in. And you can see all this stuff here that they're trying to sell. Anyway, but it's becoming more and more hyper-commercialized in the sense that big companies are taking over this. But anyway, so the article says here, big names from Silicon Valley, this is from the Washington Post, went head-to-head with media giants at a House hearing Wednesday on the Stop Online Piracy Act, which would punish companies for posting pirated content online. Several lawmakers at the hearing said they supported the legislation introduced last month by House Judiciary Committee Chairman Lamar Smith, which was originally aimed at shutting down foreign sites that posted intellectual property created by U.S. firms. But critics say it goes too far. Internet giants, including Yahoo, which runs a search service and a website, Google, which again owns Facebook and has their own thing, and they have the Android phone and all this other stuff. Google's, again, if anybody's going to take Apple down a peg, it's going to be Google. I don't know if they can do it because they seem to be having management issues. Facebook could do it, but Facebook's more interested in being friends with Apple and than fighting against them. Google actually went after them with these. Does Google have a tablet computer yet? They will. Doesn't Sony have one? Is it any good? This is the way I would see it. If it's cheaper than an iPad and it does similar things and you don't have to wait in line for 12 hours to get it, I think that's probably a better purchase in general, right? Anyway. Facebook and the Consumer Electronics Association have joined forces to, which is probably some hackers in there, to oppose the legislation which they say would give the government too much power to shut down websites accused of pirating or counterfeiting content. It goes on to say, inexplicably and almost overnight, SOPA has morphed into a full-on assault against lawful U.S. Internet companies, said Markham C. Erickson, Executive Director of Nut Coalition, a group representing web firms and public interest groups opposed to the law. Supporting the bill is a powerful group of lobbies interested in protecting intellectual property, including, and this is old media, the Motion Picture Association of America, pharmaceutical makers. Why pharmaceutical makers? Anybody know? They actually did a study, and you wouldn't necessarily know this unless you read this study, that on certain programs during prime time, somewhere near 60 to 70% of all ads are for prescription medication. Also, on top of that, I'm sure you guys get this in your spam box the way I do. Can you get generic drugs from like Mexico and stuff like that?
I get pop-ups like that on my computer.
Yeah. So they're concerned about this stuff too. They want to shut these sites down that are selling like Vicodin from Mexico, which is probably not Vicodin. It's probably ammonia and cyanide.
Well, those are things that we would want to shut down, right?
Like
who would be opposed to that?
Right. So there are maybe some good parts of this bill, right? Whereas Google, and again, remember the news reporter in the second story said that they were quoting, I think, a senator that I think Harry Reid, that we can adjust this bill and make it better. Media firms and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Fundamentally, so here's the story, at least according to Michael O'Leary with the Motion Picture Association of America. Fundamentally, this is about jobs. That's what he said on Wednesday at the hearing. The Chamber estimates, that's the Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, that Hollywood studios, record labels, and publishing houses lose $135 billion in revenue each year from piracy and counterfeiting. Do you believe that number?
Seems a lot like
I know, come on, $135 billion. And wait, this is what I would say to them. You're losing $135 billion. I think unless that's a point in there, I don't think there's one in there. That's what shocked me a little bit. You've been losing 135. Let's just ballpark it at $50 billion a year for the past 10 years. Why now are you doing this now when you were losing money 10 years ago? You know, this is like, oh, we got a scarlet fever epidemic. Let's wait a few weeks before we treat anybody. It'll be cool. We don't have the money right now. Now, I know Congress works slow, but come on. The Internet Piracy Bill has pitted many recording and motion picture companies against tech giants like Google, but what would SOPA mean for the individual artist? As Maura Judkis explained, the bill is a mixed bag for artists and musicians, especially for amateurs. SOPA protects artists' intellectual property, enabling them to pursue a profit, which in the case of record labels and movie companies, cuts off consumer paths to free downloads and pushes them towards purchasing the work. Believe it or not, one of the insidious things that the Microsoft website does, has anybody been on there lately? You know what your Microsoft website does with your computer's version of Windows? It checks to see if it's genuine. And sometimes it makes mistakes, and it tries to shut your Windows down. It's called Windows Genuine Authorization or something stupid like that, and to me it's a virus. I've never seen such garbage. And then when it says, you need to fix your Windows, it directs you to the site to buy the new Windows 7 or whatever the hell it is. Maybe it's Bill Gates. I don't want to hear him say anything about Steve Jobs anymore. Not only because he's dead, but because, Bill, you are the same person as far as I'm concerned. You just got more money. Or you used to. Anyway. But the types of content that would be prohibited under SOPA would also include amateur remix works, like YouTube covers of songs of mashups of movies. So that, remember that, those of you remember the Lady Gaga thing with the soldiers who were doing the, what's it, TikTok song or whatever? Remember that? I guess nobody saw that. Some of you saw it. That would be illegal. Or if I wanted to do like a mashup of like me singing with Kermit the Frog. That's not happening, okay? I doubt anybody would watch it. Anyway. These works would be considered a copyright violation, so not only could the creator of the work be legally vulnerable, but also the host of the content. So YouTube, this to me sounds like, and again, I know it keeps coalescing around this reality, this seems to me like the motion picture industry and the music industry against YouTube. That's what this looks like to me. Doesn't it? Because what they're saying is, look, not only those people, and they were soldiers, I believe. Remember, again, if you haven't seen this TikTok thing, it's a Lady Gaga thing. They actually redid it on The Simpsons, right? Not only could the person who uploaded that be sued, or even thrown in jail, but now YouTube can get attacked. And so Google's got to be concerned about it. Do you think Google wants a bunch of lawsuits? Think about how many, look this up, how many videos on YouTube? Whoever's on Wikipedia or Google. I don't know. Don't you think, just go to Google's search site and put in how many videos are on YouTube. It should come up. But I'm telling you right now, there's no way you could police YouTube and it would be arbitrary and some people would get arrested and other people would get away with it. And what would eventually happen is that, I'm telling you right now, this is an attempt to shut YouTube down. I could be wrong. Let's read on. Huh? Yeah, what did it say?
Alright, well on YouTube's frequently asked questions section, how many videos are on YouTube? 48 hours of video are uploaded every minute, resulting in nearly 8 years of content uploaded every day.
So we could guess if it's 15 minutes of video roughly, that you're talking hundreds of millions of videos here. I mean, 8 hours or 24 hours a day for 365 days a week, that's a lot of hours.
48 hours of video.
Right. A minute. That's what it said. A minute. Yeah. So there. That's it. So that's crazy. Right. So God knows how. So again. So if you're Warner Music and you can't knock down each one of these videos, I can't go through YouTube and like you said, I take down one of Prince's song, it's up the next day, isn't it? So what better way to do it than just punch YouTube right in the face? You're the problem, YouTube. Okay? And I don't think Google has reconciled this reality that when they took over YouTube, there was a lot of content on there that was violating copyright. So, anyway, however, these remixed works aren't a commercial replacement for the originals. Hearing adorable Sophia Grace Brownlee sing Nicki Minaj's Super Bass isn't necessarily going to keep a listener from purchasing the single on iTunes. In fact, it might introduce the song to an entirely new group of listeners. So there's something that these media companies ought to think about. Viral videos often help an artist's career more than they hurt it. It's a topic that Harvard professor Lawrence Lessing addresses at length in his book Remix, in which he argues that we must restore a copyright law that leaves amateur creativity free from regulation. Lessing's opponent might be Robert Levine, interviewed on Salon recently for his book Free Ride, How Digital Parasites Are Destroying the Culture Business and How the Culture Business Can Fight Back. That's not a book. First of all, dude, you write a book like that, tone the language down. And I don't think anybody under the age of 40 or who's not in the music industry is going to be interested in reading a book. Because you're essentially, he's sitting there calling everybody you're calling people parasites, dude. You're not going to make any friends like that. Well, except for the music industry. You almost wonder why he did this kind of book, though. It's probably a bunch of 52-year-olds out there going, yeah, you damn kids. That's what I think of you. There's one more reason why I follow you when you come in my store. I'm telling you, there is an age war brewing in this country like you're never going to see. You think the 1960s had a generation gap? The difference is the Depression generation didn't spend $15 trillion of their kids' money and go, you know what, we didn't do any of that. That wasn't us. We're just as mad as you are. Sure you are. Go back to your McMansion. Cry about it. In the interview, he says the best way to save artists' jobs is to strengthen copyright laws. So he's walking around, if you've ever heard The Emperor's New Clothes, this guy is the one going, great clothes, Emperor, and everybody else is going, the dude's naked. And you're like, no, this guy's got some invisible clothes on. Come on, it's great, look at the colors. One of the desirable things that copyright laws do is create some kind of market for intellectual property. We've had that for 300 years. That should change and it should evolve, but what we're doing now is we're dismantling that market. For those new to the SOPA debate, Haley Tsukiyama has the 5 things to know about the Internet Piracy Bill. Here's the excerpt. So here's more of a breakdown. It doesn't say who this is, who she is. So it goes, why all the buzz? The bill is buzzy not only because it's potential to affect a wide range of industries, but also because it's got a lot of momentum behind it. Smith has said that he intends to mark up the bill by the end of the year. That's the person in Congress. Despite the controversy, the bill has a great deal of bipartisan support, with 21 members joining Smith in co-sponsoring the legislation. There's part of that with question 3, remember, of why politicians don't go more after the media monopoly, right? Because they pay their bills. If someone, look, if you knew that half of your re-election campaign was coming from major media companies, I don't think you're going to be signing on to be against this bill, do you? And you're not going to repeal the things that happened in 1996, and you're not going to get on Rupert Murdoch's case. Because additionally, it's one thing to attack Apple, right, if you're a senator. That's bad enough, right? What's the problem with attacking Time Warner, who's the parent company of CNN? Then what's going to happen?
CNN's going to talk bad about you?
Or at the very minimum, they're not going to talk about you at all. Like you don't exist. So President somebody said today, what's the president's name? We don't remember. Wasn't it great when the United States had a president? I mean, I'm joking, but it would be essentially like you don't exist anymore. And unlike when you're the president, where you can get attention because you can break into people's primetime shows and then talk about something stupid that nobody cares about. I just wanted to tell the American people that I'm running for re-election, like, look, we know. Why did you interrupt my favorite television show at 9 o'clock to tell me that? But if you're a congressman, you need this. You need CNN, and they're not going to invite you on if you're a jerk, or if they think you're against their interest or against the company that advertises on their network. How does it compare to the Senate's bill? This is the Senate versus the House bill. The Protect IP Act passed the Senate earlier this year. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon placed a hold on the bill, citing concerns about its potential to muzzle speech. So here's one of the concerns of conflict theorists, and stifle innovation and economic growth. SOPA, critics say, goes even further than the Protect IP Act because it grants the government even broader powers to go after websites hosting copyrighted content. Internet Openness Group, Public Knowledge, said that SOPA is significantly worse than its Senate cousin because it lowers the barriers to who can be considered liable for IP theft, saying that sites that don't do enough to prevent piracy, such as search engines, can also be held liable for infringement. Are you starting to see why Yahoo and Google don't want this to happen? And on top of that, the onus would be on Google and Yahoo to get rid of any content that their web browsers were linking to, wouldn't it? And again, it appears to me that the crosshairs are right on YouTube. Here's the thing. Who here knows what the site Hulu is? Who runs Hulu, and why do you think that the people who run Hulu would like to see YouTube die a disgusting, loud, despicable death? What is Hulu? And who owns it?
I know Hulu just shows television shows for free, but I don't know who runs it.
It's like NBC. I feel like it's
NBC, I think one of the other networks too, at least ABC or something is part of it, which is again owned by Disney. And if you want to watch one of your shows, they put it on there. If you want more access to other shows, you have to sign up, and there's commercials on Hulu everywhere. And there's commercials on YouTube too. But the problem is, there is not pirated material on Hulu. There is on YouTube. So this is a way of the owners of Hulu, who are these major media companies, going, hey, we want this out of the way. We want YouTube out of the way because, look, let's face it. How many people here go on YouTube every day? Or at least once a week? How many people here go on Hulu once a day? Once a week? Once a month? Thank you, NBC. Now we know what's going on, don't we? Or at least are you getting a better picture of what's going on here?
But doesn't like the recurring trend show that like once one form of piracy shut down, like another one would just open up?
That was that. Remember that chart I had with the cone opening up and closing? Yeah, to some extent. So what they're doing is You think these pirates are going to stop? You think they're just going to go get a job at Burger King and stop? Oh, it was fun while it lasted. Let's go get a real job in Sweden as a criminal, right? I mean, essentially, you're a hacker, right? You think that's going to happen, or do you think they're going to go, oh, okay? Like, it's like a bank robber. Just because you put a new safe lock on the door or something like that doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying. I'll just dig through the floor, right? Or like, you know, this is one thing that happens. Are you allowed to have radar detectors in this state? Right, so in other states you can. And what happens is they get a new radar detector, and then the same company makes a new radar gun that can't be detected by the old radar detector. And then they make a new radar detector that can detect a new. Do you see what's going on? Huh? Right. Okay? And it's sort of that element here. Okay? Anyway, so let me read the rest of this here. Let me go up there a little bit. Oops. I guess that's it. Is that the end of the bill? Damn it. Oh. Actually, let's see if there's any comments. There's no comments on that. That's so weird. That's the end of the bill. Anyway. Can you see why pharmaceutical companies are interested? This company that just had this pill come out, it's a weight loss pill, their stock went up 100% today. I think the media had nothing to do with that. Anyway, alright. Now, let's move with the short amount of time here. I want to start our discussion about first of all, I want to show you the syllabus so you know what book we're going to be using for when we get done with this stuff. So for March 1st, read chapters 1 and 2 and the TV and its viewers. The foreword as well. Right, so keep that in mind. But, so some of the things, I'm going to read part of the book here and then we'll kind of come back to this. I will end the class with this. This is on page 133. This isn't the only place where Bagdickian offers solutions, but this is certainly where he talks about some of them. Does everybody have this now? Foreword, chapters 1 and 2. It's up on the line stand. I want to turn this off. And we will talk about, you can write this down, but just keep this in your notes for later, micro and macro solutions to the problem. Okay, when we mean by micro, we mean by individuals or small groups. What can individuals do to stop the media monopoly, or at least maybe get around it? And what we're really looking here is social and cultural forces here. So social institutions like the government or the media companies themselves. So let me read this here on page 133. So Bagdickian goes on in his book and talks about how he feels very concerned about what's going on here, but he does in the section entitled Rays of Light suggest this on page 133. Within the gloom there is some light. When the first edition of this book was published, it warned each generation has to publish its own priorities and to reinvigorate the best principles of the society. That new generation, now joined with veteran allies in the struggle for freedom of significant information, has appeared on the scene. So what he's saying is this is a generational issue and that individuals can potentially have a great amount to impact both either by getting around the media monopoly individually or collectively lobbying the government to do something about this. Confronted with the arrogance and avarice of the mass media conglomerates, older reform groups, hardened by their experience with past failures, combined with a new generation seemingly born with inherent skills and the uses of digital technology, has risen to the challenge. So part of this is he sees obviously the internet as part of the solution. Okay. By 2003, there were more than 100 media reform organizations. So he's also talking about activism. A few from the far right, but most of them moderate or progressive alternatives to the rigid and limited spectrum of the major media. Unlike some past reformers, the new ones possess expertise in not only how the media operate, but also the complexities of how these media are linked to the general political system. Skills and new technology have been used for creative, progressive works that are open and surprisingly successful. A generation of mostly youthful internet journalists and anthologists has bypassed the traditional standard media by providing national and global news not always found in big media broadcasts and printed news. What's another website that actually, this was actually used during the, remember the Iranian protests after the election? You guys remember this stuff? Remember when and if you don't remember, this young lady was killed by the government right in front of everybody, and she became a symbol of the revolution. How did information, because the Iranian government, you're not allowed to have access to American media sites. And people were able to circumvent this through their smartphones. What website played a crucial element in this, at least one of them?
Twitter.
Right. And Twitter can act as at least some form of open journalistic site. Same with Facebook, I would say. You can start your own iJournalism thing. The problem is with Twitter and Facebook, what is real, what is not. Whereas it's a little more clear with CNN, although not always, right? Because remember, the National Enquirer group, what was the #1 story you guys put at the top of your paper? Huh? Right. Being alive and living in Iceland with absolutely no proof. So it doesn't always mean the truth. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say with Twitter, I remember with Steve McNair's death, people heard about it before it was officially announced on ESPN.
Remember Abu Ghraib? That was over
yeah, that's another thing. Twitter's like, I guess, still independent and all this, and kind of.
And Facebook's a big part of it. It'll be interesting to see what happens when both these companies go public later. Facebook is going public. I'm telling you right now, and not that I'm not trying to be Jim Cramer or something. You're talking about a company that has 800 million members. You think the stock's going to go down the day it comes out or up? Probably. Now, and also, even if it goes down, do you think it's going to zero anytime soon? Seems like a pretty... You make your own decisions, but it seems like a pretty safe bet to me. Anyway, let's continue with 133 next time. Everybody have a good weekend. We will in the next section, because we'll talk about race.